Hello, homebuyers. We all know that looks can be deceiving, and the same really goes for buying a home in Finland. When looking at places, something might look really cheap, but then when you look a little bit deeper, it might actually not be that cheap after all. So in this video, we're going to look at a specific case that I found, which at first sight looks really cheap, but turns out to be a pretty bad deal. So let's take a look. So I was doing a search in Oikotie and looking for places in Helsinki and two-room places, and I just put a really narrow price range. So 100,000 euros to 140,000 euros and a specific size just to narrow down the search even more. And there was 9 apartments that fit this search criteria. And pretty much if you buy a place for this price, it should be a pretty good deal because the price isn't too high. So there were several places that showed up with this price range, and the cheapest one actually was right here, 115,000 euros for 55.5 square meters. So I thought, wow, let's take a closer look. A lot of it has already been renovated. Of course, it might not be prime, but it's still not too bad. For instance, we see that the kitchen had some remodeling. It's not originally built that way. And also the bathroom, definitely it's been renovated in the past 10, 15, 20 years or so. Looking much nicer than some of the very old bathrooms. In the next year or so, they're going to have this renovation that for this apartment is going to cost around 63,000 euros. So now this apartment that's selling for 115,000 euros. So now this apartment that's selling for 115,000 euros is all of a sudden closer to 180,000 euros. I know that a lot of places are selling for around 150 or 160. So 180 already starts sounding quite expensive. Now, of course, one factor is we need to look at the different renovations that are coming up. And we actually see that in addition to this 63,000 euros, they have quite a few other renovations that are coming up, which are going to increase those costs in the next few years that we are actually going to pay for this place. Because of course, if we do buy this place, we need to pay for those renovations. And so when buying a home, it's very important to understand the prices of these different renovations that will take place. We're not always so lucky that we actually have a figure here set up telling us how much those renovations are going to cost. In this case, we do, but in many cases, we need to do the math ourselves. Now, I continue looking at the place, and another big drawback is that this is actually on rented land and the rent is expiring in a few years. Now, that means that the price of the rent will probably increase, and that will also bring up our monthly fees. And so again, a big drawdown on this apartment. And I know I'm actually not the only one thinking about this apartment this way, because this has actually been on the market for a long time. And when we look at the other apartments that have been sold in this apartment building complex, they're actually asking for even less for those apartments. And still, they're on the markets for a long time periods like 160 days. That's already quite a few months. And that's a long time to sell an apartment which is this size. So typically places like this, they move quite fast. But if you're selling it for 160 days, half a year, that means it's just not really anything that's hot on the market. Now, of course, the good thing for us is that we actually know at this point what those renovations are going to cost. But of course, a lot of people don't know these ahead of time if they don't do the math and really do their research on finding out. So I was thinking, okay, probably a few years back, some people made some bad deals buying apartments in this building complex, and it looks like I'm right. So when looking at the statistics from around 2 years ago, we see that there were several apartments here that were the same size. They were selling for around 135, 140,000 euros, and they were selling quite fast. So in a month or two, these were off the markets, which means that probably the sellers got the price that was quite close to what they were asking for here. Now, those people who did buy these apartments for these prices, they ended up losing quite a lot of money because as we see now, those renovations that they need to pay for now are going to cost them a lot. And if they would try to sell their apartment now, just 2 years later, they would be getting maybe 40,000 euros less than what they paid for just 2 years ago. So these people, they should have known what renovations are coming up. They could have done the math. They could have examined what renovation should be coming up in the next 5-10 years. But apparently, since they were willing to pay this type of prices, they didn't do that. And I really hope that you could avoid that type of mistakes because, of course, these are tens of thousands of euros that you sort of just throw down the drain when you don't know what you're doing. So I hope this video was helpful for you. And of course, if you're interested in learning more about what to consider when buying a home, you can check out my step-by-step course on buying a home in Finland. And I do provide other consultation services as well. So if you need help in the process, just contact me. In the meantime, you can press the like button and follow my channel, and I'll see you in another video.